What's going on, everybody, and welcome to episode 62. I am your host, Marcus, and in this episode, we're talking about the journey unknown. Now, the past couple episodes, I've really kind of hammered down on different things that I have been really changing over the past couple months and starting to seek out other things. I've talked about my interests and following my instinct into those interests and really seeing where it has been, especially going down the route of NFTs and how it's really kind of exposed me back to the art world and allowed me to really use that creative side and something I really enjoyed doing as a child and seeing, because I know I've had some other great guests on my podcast before that have actually that make a living off of their art, and that's why I was attracted to what they were doing, because of the fact that I've always really liked that area and how some people are able to make a lifestyle out of it. And so I've been really kind of pursuing uh, this whole this whole part of me that it's just like a calling. It's I lose track of time. I really like doing art. It's something I've always enjoyed doing, and now that I'm kind of in the community, because myself, I'm in the Cardano community, uh, different blockchain saying, right? You have the uh, Ethereum blockchain, and you have obviously Bitcoin blockchain, but Cardano is just another blockchain. And then I've really felt like I have found some great people, a great community of people, and they really like my art. Uh, and I've It's funny because when I talk about it, when I did it, I remember the first edit I did was essentially, um, I had gotten a specific NFT, and I really liked the art, and so I started doing some edits on it, and I put it out there, and people really liked it. They really enjoyed it, and so I was like, wow, this is really cool. And so a bunch of people were asking me, well, can you do these edits on my NFT too? And so I started doing them, and I slowly kind of started building a name, kind of like at an accident kind of thing, just of I had the time to do whatever. So I wanted to start messing around essentially in Photoshop again. And because I've been doing Photoshop since I was in high school, and I did it for a long time. I really enjoyed it. I've always done art in general since I was like 8 years old, and drew from many, many hours. You can even ask my parents. They would tell you that's all I did, because I used to draw every comic, every essentially cartoon character in my old like gaming magazines, and I would draw for hours because I wanted to get good at it. And it's like anything, and things that I talk about on Discover Ignite is, to get good at anything, and even something I tell my kids, to get good at anything, you have to practice. And so I knew that young, and I tried so hard, and I felt like everything was so bad, but eventually it just seemed to click, and I was doing better. I still, and then I had took that wide gap, right? Adulthood and all that. I did a bunch of other different things, but I never really followed my passion, because I remember being told at some point in my life that there was no, I couldn't make a living off of it. And now that's kind of coming back to the forefront. It's really interesting on because a lot of the different things that I've done, I've gotten paid for. And so that is what's intriguing to me, is that, wow, people will pay for my work, and people really enjoy it. And people get joy out of my work. And even doing these, right? Like I really want to help people, but sometimes I think you need that extra piece. And sometimes I think you can reach more people through art, right? Through entertainment, through some source. And I've always been something, and as like a manager, as somebody that oversees people, a friend, right? Or in a relationship, whatever the case is, I've always felt like you have to provide that little bit extra, right? To make people feel comfortable, whether that's through whatever talent you have. If that's through art, that's through telling jokes, right? I like to crack jokes all the time. If you hung out with me, you would know that's what I do all the time. All right. I'm a smart ass, and that's the way I am. I like having a good time. And a lot of times, I think we take life too serious. And when you're starting to look for a journey and starting to go out and explore other things and be curious and do other things that you enjoy in life, you really have to stop being serious about things. I think a lot of times we feel like we have to um, live a specific way, that living any other way than that specific way is wrong. And so when I'm talking about this, the journey unknown, it's more about following my intuition. And I've always found that throughout my life, when I piece it together, there are reasons why certain things happen. And I'm sure you could go back in your life and piece things together that they've happened for a specific reason. And, some moments give you joy, some moments they do not. They bring a lot of heartache. You have to reason there's a reason for that. There's a reason why you had a heartache. There's a reason for that joy. And I've always felt that the joy that you get in life is to let you look for that next moment of joy, because you have to understand that it comes in waves, and that you'll have bad times, and you look forward to those good times and understand that they're all just temporary. And so you really just kind of just live life and let intuition guide you, and let life pass through you. And in my last episode, right, I talked about that book about intuition and letting life pass through you. And so I've been meditating more and trying to get in that state of, okay, I'm trying to control too much. A lot of stuff we tend to forget that is out of our control. We have absolutely no control but ourselves. And sometimes I think we do too much. We press too hard. And I know for myself, that's why I get burnt out, because I do too many things. But one thing I've always found is you should have some things that you do, right? You should have at least two or three things that you do that we really do love and enjoy. Now, maybe you have kids, maybe you have family, right? They should be part of that as well. That should be part of those couple things that you have. But I've always loved art. I've always loved technology, coding. I've always loved because you can create. I've always loved. I just recently just started falling in love with the stock market and all that kind of stuff, and investments. That's always something I've really enjoyed. So I'm trying to tie all these three or four different things in my life together, and bring it all together. So if you've noticed through any of my stuff, through any of my content, it's all kind of starting to blend together, because of that fact. Because it's more than just, let me help you get the right mindset. Let me show you my journey. Let me allow you to see, trying to live my passion through art and through the stock market and through coding. In coding, I really started getting into lately again, and realized how much I missed it in doing it. That's not saying I haven't done it over the past year or so, right? I've been essentially doing it on and off, and realize the power it brings and what you can create, especially nowadays, because you can just create something that can last forever. And so right now, it won't last forever, but you know what I mean, right? Create something has more longevity. Instead of giving up multiple hours, you can automate something that will help you build stuff. And so I'm starting to look more at that, and do stuff, especially with my art and everything else. It's something I want to do and something I really enjoy doing, right? And I really like seeing people get passionate about what I put together and piece together, and finding the joy. And a lot of times, I think we all can relate to where, you do something and someone's like, wow, this is really good stuff. And you're like, it's not bad. Right? Like, I feel like I could do more. Not that I don't try and give it 100% every time, but I felt like maybe I'm missing something. And so a lot of times I always try to strive for better. I always look for ways to improve. So when someone gives me a compliment, it's hard for me to take that, right? A lot of times it's for me like, well, I did this, and I could probably improve this a little bit better. And so it's always having that eye. And so nonetheless, it's great to see people enjoy themselves. And so when you're out there trying to go out and create the life that you want, I think it's important that you need to find those couple things. And if you don't have anything, that's perfectly okay, right? Like, even for myself, like I've talked a lot to this point that, I was reading, up to almost 70 books a year, almost every year for a good solid number of years. And that's helped me propel me a lot of ways. It's helped open my mind up to new concepts, new ideas. And then I think you kind of get to a point where a lot of it does seem kind of redundant. And so I haven't been reading as much, but I've been trying to do more, executing more than I am trying to study. I think it's good to know enough of something and then just get your hands and dive right in, because that's the only way you're going to actually know how it works. And a lot of times you can go based off of theory, go based off of whatever the case is, but you won't really know until you start doing it. And when you start doing it, you realize that, yeah, some of those concepts are true, but the majority of them are not. And that you have to actually work through a lot of different things. And so doing this, it's just exciting. It's exciting. And I wake up every day and I'm excited to do what I do. And a lot of times it's funny because I always get asked that question, well, you work all the time. And it's like, it's not work. It's something I enjoy. I like creation. I like doing these things. And it beats sometimes just like going and sitting in front of a TV and watching TV. It's not saying that I don't not enjoy doing that. I do enjoy doing that. But for me, it's always like, well, I could be creating something. I could be doing something now that can help propel me. And I think there are certain parts in your life where you need to hammer down and push harder than others. If you can get to a place where you can ease off the gas a little bit, you know when that is. But only you can define that because you know where you want to be before you can let off the gas. And realize that you have to have some moment in your life where you really take things serious. Well, again, when I talk about serious, I joke all the time. So, but it's enjoying the journey, right? I work hard during a certain period of time, but I'm also enjoying the journey, right? I make the work easy and fun. That's what I try to do, right? I try to make my work fun. If you can't do that, then right, you're in the wrong work. And if you feel like you just can't get ahead, you need to focus and dedicate that time, all the time that you are outside of whatever job you have, whatever the case is, and put forth effort into books or courses or whatever the case is to get you to where you need to be. And then when you realize that once you get there, then you can start doing other things. You can start making other moves that weren't possibly even there. And so going on this journey of art and everything and learning techniques, right? Because like I've always had that eye, right? Like they say artists always have that eye. And I felt like I've always had it because at a young age, I was always trying to learn as much as I can. And even throughout the years, I'd pick up the pencil and I would just draw for a couple of days, weeks, and then I would turn it off. And then a couple of months later, I'd do the same thing. And then every time I did it though, I always tried to learn something new, whether it was shading or some other different tool in Photoshop or whatever the case was. And then a lot of it's just tinkering with stuff and seeing what you can create. And I remember like one of my funnest like things to do was I was just dabbling in Photoshop, especially at a young age. And I come up with this like really cool technique that I like. And I find like a lot of people like this technique. And it's just, a lot of times it's just one technique that really kind of solidifies who you are. And so being said, in the art space, and I mean, even for myself, and I know a lot of people will say, well, art is art. And, really what can you do with art? And I think art is just so booming right now because of the fact of the technology and and realize that we live in the metaverse now, right? And there's talks of the metaverse and a lot of people are like, oh, that's great. Nobody's going to live in the metaverse. But, I heard a conversation today of the guy that was speaking saying, we already live in the metaverse. Right, you live with your phone attached to you, right? You're checking emails, you're checking Facebook, you're checking Instagram, you're checking Twitter, you're checking all these other different things, news, whatever the case is, right? You're always connected to these things. And you realize that you already live in that realm. And it's just, the metaverse is just one step closer. Instead of having it as a part, as detached from you, you essentially have it attached to your head at that point. And so there really isn't ever any difference. And so that's why I think it is important to have that time where you're disconnected from that. And I feel like if I get in ruts or something where I'm not running as much as I should be or getting outside as much as I should be, which I think is always important. You need to be outside getting sun every single day, whether that's a walk or whatever the case is. But that helps, right? That helps you helps with creativity, helps with all these other different things in your life, right? And chemical wise in your body and the balances and all that stuff too. Because it's important, right, to make sure that you are in the right state of mind no matter what you do. Make sure that you are observing your life and not living your life for somebody else, but only for yourself. And even if you have family, I think that is what is really important to understand is that, right? Like I have kids, but you have to realize that your kids aren't going to be around forever. They will not. You should be there for your kids, right? I'm not saying not be there for your kids, but you need to understand that, they're not going to be there forever. You're going to have a life after your kids leave. Your kids are going to have their own lives. And so you need to be able to establish that. You still need to be able to try to solidify that when you have the chance and build something, right? When they're young, you have off time, which I know you don't have a lot of off time. And I know you work hard to maintain that, but realize that building towards something. So when they leave, you have something that you can focus on and you're not left there like, what am I doing now? And I don't know where I'm going or what I'm doing. You don't want to just be in that state. So being said, like, it's an interesting time. It's definitely not for the weak. I wouldn't say weak, but it's definitely not for somebody that if you stress a lot, right? Like you should learn to deal with that. Like there's certain levels that you need to deal with, be able to deal with certain stresses in life. And a lot of it starts with that inner work. And this is why, Discover Ignite essentially started with inner work. If you go back to all my videos, I mean, you essentially know almost my whole story about where I've been coming from and why I started and why things have changed from this way to that way. And it can help you. I hope it can help you, at least provide you guidance, because that's the biggest thing is we don't have guidance. And I wish I would have something like I am creating now to kind of see someone grow fully, but not like just from, here we are, this is what we are, and are coming from a different walk of life, right? Like coming from a turning point in your life where you really want to make change. And I think that's what my channel represents is, coming from a point where you are essentially a low part of your life, not really knowing what to do, you get a new perspective on life and then it changes. And it's one of those things, it's like that knowledge, right? Like you get that one piece of knowledge that changes your perspective forever and you can't just go back. Like you see things differently now. And being said, so you start making different moves and people may question what you're doing. Maybe not all people will question, but people will talk about you. Maybe not all people will talk about you. Maybe it's just in your head. A lot of times you find out it's just in your head. A strong majority of it is just in your head. It's these games your mind likes to play on you and it stops you from going out and doing something that you want to do. And again, if I could hit on intuition, and I know I've talked about it a lot for the past 2 episodes, but intuition, I'm finding it gives you next steps. It provides for you next steps. It's just believing in it. If you could just believe in it, it will work. And being patient, I know it's not easy, and I know it can be really stressful, but if you can be patient and be determined to be strong in the fact that you have to be watching what it is you are doing, right? You have to be dedicated to what it is that you're doing. Know why you're doing something specifically and taking actions specifically. And not deterring from those actions and understanding that it takes discipline. That is the word I'm looking for, is discipline. If you can understand how important discipline is for the thing that you want, how disciplined can you be? The longer you can extend your discipline on something, the better you can get at something, right? Whether you want to do art, maybe it's just drawing for 20 minutes a day because that's all you have. Maybe you want to just get a little smarter. Maybe you want to learn about a specific subject. Just read 20 minutes a day. If you want to sit and actually re-listen to a book, right? If you feel like you don't have the time, you're in a car driving to work, listen to a book, right? Listen to something different. And you realize that it helps you grow. For all those years, I was hammering away on every single thing I was curious about. Some books weren't great. Some were really good books. Those really good books made up for those really bad books. Like, I try to filter it down. Even on my channel, I try to filter it down to the good books that I really enjoyed, not just every book that I read, because not every book that I read was fantastic. There was a point, I think I read like 5 books in a row and they were really good. And before then, like, I can't recall, it had been like months before I read a book that was like really, really good. And all of a sudden I got like 4 or 5 books that were really good. So that it doesn't always happen that way, but normally it's, you read like a book and it's good, and then you'll go a couple books down, and then you read another book that's really good. But the biggest thing, even those books in between, you still always learn something. There's still something you can always take away from that book that allows you to really apply it to your life. And if you can start applying your knowledge to your life, right, don't get caught up in the learning. And for a long time, I would get caught up in the learning, and then I would forget that, hey, I need to be taking more action. And for me, I think this year is about taking more action than just reading about it, and realize that's what it is. Now, I've taken a lot of action up to this point, right? I've created a channel, I've created a podcast, I've done other things, and understand that, yes, I was taking action, but I think I could have done more. For me, it was more trying to be precise about it, and not really thinking too heavily into it. And yeah, that's what it is. Well, I know the information, but it's not really applying it the way I should have been doing it. And then again, finding those things that I really align with, like, is being a mindset coach really something I want to do? Like, I love helping people, but to change someone's mindset is not easy. It's hard for a person to change their own mindset, and then to do it to somebody else, right? Because a lot of times we feel like we lose control of ourselves and we aren't ready. No one can force us to be ready, or given any situation. No one can force us to be ready. We have to be ready. When we're ready, then it can change. And so, looking at Discover Ignite, I was like, well, is that something I really wanted to continue to do? And I debated a lot of times about it, because of the fact that, I enjoy art. I think art is probably one of the best things I love to do, because it's all about creation and creating new things, and then seeing how people react to that. And not everything works, right? Not everything is something that somebody's going to love. Some things people are attracted to more than others, and that's fine. That's just the way it is in the art field, right? And understand, at least from my understanding, I'm not saying I'm a professional at all in that realm, right? But just from my experience, it's what I see. And then realizing that, what I've learned with Discover Ignite, what I've learned through my experiences, I can, when people are loving my art, right, it kind of opens a person up more, right? Because they feel, maybe they see something in your art that really reminds them of something. And so you connect better with people when you have, instead of, try to improve yourself, try to do this, try to do that. This is what I've done. And so you're like, oh, that's great, right? Because you're seeing an end result as opposed to where I was. So that's harder for you to relate. But if I can relate through a piece of art and then tell you about how I got there, maybe that will motivate you to change. Maybe a little bit more. Maybe it'll give me a little bit more leverage to be able to do that, as opposed to just telling you how I got there. And it's more so showing. And so that's why I've really created Discover Night more as of a this is the journey I'm going through. You're seeing the journey as it unfolds, and you're right along with me. And if you get anything out of it, I hope you do, and I hope you learn a lot out of it, because a lot of times we don't live the way we want to live. And I've always been a person that's, I'd rather do it myself and show you it's possible than talk about it. And so I'm doing that. and trying to live my best life, doing, the four things I love to do, right? Is coding, art, stock market, and my family, right? And being said those things, right, and hammering away at those things and creating. I like being a creator, right? YouTube, podcast, it's all about creating. I like doing that stuff. It brings me a lot of joy to be able to do that stuff and then see other people get the same amount of joy that I have for it. Or seeing somebody, seeing a piece I've done for somebody and they just thoroughly enjoy it. They're happy it's theirs is amazing to do. And seeing that is just, it's a lot of fun. And, I wish everybody could do that, but I know everybody can do that. A lot of times it's just it's a fear factor, and something I talk about how you need to overcome the fear, right? And I'd say you should live your day every day like it's your last day, right? Like that's how you should live every day. And I know it's easier said than done, but if you wake up every day just telling yourself, you know what, today is going to be the day, I die. And as morbid as that sounds, if it was the last day, what would you do? And then just do that. Like I enjoy getting up every day and going to work out first thing in the morning. I get up really early because it's quiet and I like it being really quiet. It's just quiet and peaceful in the morning. And then, I have my coffee, I get ready, I go to the gym. I enjoy my day at the gym. I try to work hard, get all that energy, right? Because your energy is all primed first thing in the morning, go out and knock out some energy, come home, get ready for the day, get ready for the stock market, do the stock market. And then I also have coding and I also have my art. Art is like an escape and coding is like an escape, except coding is a little bit harder and it challenges me, right? With coding, I like the challenge it brings in solving things and creating things, and realize that, this is what I think is funny about coding is that you have to have a short-term memory and think, it's not failure every time I try to do this. Like, because you got to keep reiterating something until it works. And that's just the way life is. Coding relates to life perfectly, right? You just go through different iterations until it works. And then when it works, you repeat it. You know how you made that connection. You know what made it work. You just keep repeating it until it doesn't work anymore. Or until you come across a new piece of information, how you can evolve it better and do better. Maybe it's technology, maybe it's a new language, maybe whatever the case is, right? This is life, is what's great. And that's why I kind of like coding in that aspect, is it's the same way. You are evolving, right, the process. And that's your life is the same way. You're evolving the process. So go out there and make a change. Go out there and go on this journey, this unknown journey of intuition, curiosity, and live it up.